Exclusive update for Viking Nation. You're not ready for what just hit Minneapolis like a frozen lightning bolt straight from the heart of Minnesota winter. 5 earth-shattering revelations are about to unfold that could completely redefine everything you thought you knew about this purple and gold dynasty. We're talking about a defensive masterpiece that has opposing offenses shaking in their cleats, a backfield controversy brewing that could flip the entire rushing attack upside down, jersey number drama that signals massive roster shakeups behind the scenes, a legendary warrior hanging up his battle gear after nearly a decade of pure domination, and a free agent safety who could be the missing piece to Brian Flores' championship puzzle. Each of these shocks could redefine the future of this team. And if you bleed purple and gold harder than you hate the Packers, you need to hear every single word. The first revelation is about to detonate inside US Bank Stadium, and it starts with the most terrifying defense the NFL has seen in years. Brian Flores has turned the Minnesota Vikings defense into an absolute nightmare factory that's about to terrorize every single offense in the league, and what's happening right now in training camp is sending shockwaves through the entire NFL. The mad scientist defensive coordinator has crafted something so devastating, so perfectly engineered, that opposing quarterbacks are probably losing sleep just thinking about facing this purple wall of destruction. We're talking about a unit that led the NFL with 24 interceptions last season, ranked 5th in points allowed, and created more takeaways than any other team in football. But here's the kicker that'll make your blood boil with excitement. This year's version looks even more dominant than that championship caliber squad. Flores, who spent 15 years learning the Patriot way under Bill Belichick and literally held Sean McVay's greatest show on turf to just 3 points in Super Bowl 36, has taken everything he absorbed from that legendary defensive mind and molded it into something uniquely terrifying in Minnesota. The beauty of what Flores has built isn't just the raw talent, though. Having Andrew Van Ginkel, Jonathan Greenard, Harrison Smith, and Josh Metellus flying around the field like purple missiles is pretty spectacular. It's the way he's turned his defense into a chess match where the Vikings are always 3 moves ahead. Players are talking about hitting master's level in his complex scheme, and when defensive coordinator Josh Metellus says they're about to reach that peak, you know something special is brewing in the Twin Cities. But hold on tight, Viking Nation, because the real secret weapon isn't just the returning stars, it's the massive upgrades Flores now has at his disposal. Gone are the days of journeymen like Jihad Ward and Jerry Tillery trying to generate interior pressure. Now we're looking at former Pro Bowlers Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave wreaking havoc from the inside, creating chaos that'll free up Van Ginkel and Greenard to absolutely demolish opposing quarterbacks. This isn't just an upgrade, this is like trading in your trusty pickup truck for a Formula One race car. Flores has more talent at his disposal than ever before, and that's terrifying news for every other team in the NFC North. Are you seeing how this defense could completely shut down Aaron Rodgers and the Jets when they come to Minneapolis? Can you imagine what this unit will do to Caleb Williams and the Bears offense that's still trying to figure out their identity? If you believe the Vikings defense will dominate harder than the Packers dominated the division in the 90s, smash that like button right now and let the entire NFL know that Minnesota is coming. But just when fans thought it couldn't get crazier, here comes the next bombshell that might just flip the entire Vikings running game on its head. The Aaron Jones era in Minnesota might be coming to an end faster than anyone expected, and the reason will shock every single Vikings fan who thought they knew what this backfield would look like in 2025. Jordan Mason, the explosive running back acquired from the San Francisco 49ers, isn't just here to spell the 30-year-old veteran. According to ESPN insider Dan Graziano, Mason is being predicted to steal Jones's job completely and become the Vikings' leading rusher this season. Let that sink in for a moment, Viking Nation. The same Aaron Jones who rushed for over 1,100 yards last season, who set career highs in carries, yards, and touches, who signed a $20 million extension to stay in Minnesota, could be watching from the sideline as the younger, more explosive Mason takes over the purple and gold rushing attack. This isn't just speculation from some random analyst. This is coming from one of the most connected reporters in the NFL who has inside information about what's happening behind closed doors in Eagan. Mason brings a completely different dimension to this offense that Jones simply can't match at this stage of his career. Standing at 5'11" and weighing 223 pounds compared to Jones's 5'10", 208-pound frame, Mason looks like a completely different breed of runner when you see them standing side by side. He's got the power to bulldoze through defensive lines, the explosiveness to break away for massive gains, and the durability to handle a feature back workload. Something he proved last season when he stepped up during Christian McCaffrey's absence and rushed for 789 yards on just 153 carries. That's over 5 yards per carry with elite numbers in yards over expected and yards after contact, the kind of production that makes defensive coordinators wake up in cold sweats. The Vikings didn't just trade for Mason as a backup plan. They signed him to a 2-year deal worth over $7 million fully guaranteed with a maximum value of $12 million. The kind of contract you give to a player you expect to be a major part of your offensive game plan. When Kevin O'Connell talks about Mason being a heavy runner with burst and explosion to finish runs, he's describing exactly the type of physical, punishing runner that can wear down defenses and control games in December and January. Jones has been nothing short of spectacular for Minnesota, bringing veteran leadership, pass-catching ability, and clutch performances when the team needed them most. But Father Time is undefeated, and at 30 years old, coming off a career-high 322 touches, even the most durable running backs start to show wear and tear. The Vikings saw this transition coming, which is why they moved quickly to acquire Mason and lock him up with guaranteed money that signals their long-term intentions. Do you think Mason's size and power advantage will make him the better goal line and short yardage option? Is this the natural evolution of a smart organization protecting their investment in Jones while building for the future? And listen closely, the next chapter in this running back saga is just one part of a much larger roster transformation that's happening right under our noses, because what comes next might be the most overlooked story that could define Minnesota's entire season. The Minnesota Vikings just announced jersey number changes that reveal way more than just cosmetic preferences. And the hidden story behind these moves will tell you everything you need to know about who's rising and who's fighting for their roster lives in 2025. Miles Price, an undrafted rookie wide receiver, just switched from number 31 to number 4, taking over the jersey that belonged to Rondale Moore, who's now on season-ending injured reserve. When a UDFA gets to wear single digits, it's not just about looking cool. It's the organization sending a clear message that they see legitimate potential in this young player and expect him to contribute immediately. Bryce is one of 7 undrafted rookies who made Minnesota's 53-man roster, and grabbing number 4 suggests the coaching staff believes he could be a legitimate weapon in this receiving corps. Jeff Okudah, switching from 21 to number 8, is another fascinating development, especially since 8 was previously worn by Sam Howell before he was traded to the Philadelphia Eagles. Okudah, the former 3rd overall pick who's trying to resurrect his career in Minnesota, choosing a single-digit number suggests he's feeling confident about his role in Brian Flores' complex secondary schemes. For a player who was considered a bust in Detroit, but has the athletic ability to thrive in the right system, this number change could symbolize a fresh start and renewed confidence. Dwight McGlothern Jr., the undrafted free agent cornerback who made the roster in back-to-back years, jumped from 29 to number 6, continuing the trend of defensive backs gravitating toward those coveted single-digit numbers that have become symbols of speed and playmaking ability since the NFL loosened its numbering restrictions. The fact that McGlothern is confident enough to make this switch tells you he expects to see significant playing time in Flores' defensive schemes. But here's where things get really interesting for Vikings fans. The return of veteran superstars Adam Thielen and Carson Wentz to their familiar jersey numbers. Thielen back in number 19 and Wentz wearing 11 aren't just nostalgic moves. They represent the kind of veteran leadership and experience that could be crucial for a team transitioning to J.J. McCarthy at quarterback. Thielen's presence gives McCarthy a reliable safety valve who knows how to find soft spots in coverage, while Wentz provides the kind of veteran backup insurance that championship teams need. Javon Hargrave, switching back to 97, the number he wore during his successful years with the Philadelphia Eagles, is a psychological move that signals he's ready to recapture the dominant form that made him one of the NFL's most feared interior pass rushers. When players go back to numbers associated with their best seasons, it's usually because they're feeling confident about returning to that level of production. Bo Richter. That is, taking back number 98, which he wore as a rookie, suggests he's earned enough respect in the building to reclaim his preferred digits after temporarily giving them up when Hargrave arrived. These might seem like minor details to casual fans, but jersey number changes often reveal the internal pecking order and confidence levels that coaches and players don't talk about publicly. When you see undrafted rookies getting premium numbers and veterans reclaiming digits from their best seasons, you're getting a sneak peek into the psychology and expectations of a roster that believes it's built for something special. Are you excited to see how these number changes reflect the new energy and confidence running through the Vikings organization? Can you sense that this team feels different, more cohesive, more ready to make a championship run than they have in years? But trust me, the story only gets more emotional from here, because the next revelation will hit every Vikings fan right in the heart with a farewell that's been 10 years in the making. The tears were flowing and the memories were flooding back, as Anthony Barr, one of the most beloved warriors in Minnesota Vikings history, officially hung up his purple and gold jersey after a remarkable 10-year NFL journey that defined an entire generation of Vikings football. Standing at the podium in the same building where he transformed from a young boy from California into a Minnesota legend, Barr delivered an emotional retirement speech that reminded every Vikings fan why they fell in love with this ferocious linebacker who gave everything he had to this franchise for 9 unforgettable seasons. When Barr first arrived in Minneapolis back in May of 2014, stepping off that plane in a t-shirt and shorts, only to be greeted by Minnesota snow in April, he never imagined he'd become so connected to this city, this culture, and this fan base that he'd eventually prefer the cold over the California heat he grew up with. That transformation from West Coast kid to Minnesota Warrior tells you everything about Barr's character and his willingness to embrace the challenge of playing football in one of the most demanding environments in the NFL. Over 102 games in purple and gold, Barr accumulated numbers that tell the story of a complete linebacker who could do everything asked of him. 496 tackles, 39 tackles for loss, 17.5 sacks, 5 interceptions, 31 passes defended, 8 forced fumbles, and 8 fumble recoveries. But statistics only scratch the surface of what Barr meant to this organization and this defense that became his identity. 4 consecutive Pro Bowl selections from 2015 to 2018 established Barr as one of the premier linebackers in the entire NFL. A player who opposing offensive coordinators had to account for on every single snap, because he could rush the passer, cover receivers, stuff the run, and create turnovers with equal effectiveness. Barr's retirement press conference wasn't just a goodbye. It was a celebration of everything that makes Vikings football special, with former teammates Eric Kendricks, Andrew Sendejo, Audie Cole, Harrison Smith, and Chad Greenway, all showing up to honor their brother-in-arms. When players voluntarily show up to celebrate a teammate's retirement, it tells you everything about the respect and love Barr earned in that locker room during his Minnesota career. The fact that Eric Kendricks revealed Barr threw up before every single game makes his 9 seasons of dominant performances even more impressive, showing the kind of mental toughness and preparation it takes to play at the highest level when your nerves are constantly testing your resolve. Barr's decision to officially retire as a Viking, rather than wherever his final season was played, demonstrates the deep connection he formed with this organization, this city, and these fans who appreciated every bone-crushing tackle, every quarterback pressure, and every game-changing play he delivered. This is a franchise that changed his life, and in return, he gave Minnesota nearly a decade of elite linebacker play that helped define some of the most exciting defensive units in team history. His authentic self that the Vikings allowed him to be, combined with the high expectations and demands they placed on him, created the perfect environment for a young linebacker to develop into a cornerstone of Minnesota's defense. When Barr says the relationship was a two-way street and that he held up his end of the bargain while the franchise held up theirs, he's describing the kind of mutual respect and commitment that builds championship caliber cultures. Are you feeling emotional thinking about all the incredible memories Barr gave us during his Minnesota tenure? Can you picture him flying sideline to sideline, making tackles that had U.S. Bank Stadium erupting with purple pride? This retirement marks the end of an era, but it also reminds us that Minnesota continues to be the kind of place where players want to finish their careers and call home forever. And if you think that was the most significant personnel move affecting the Vikings this week, wait until you hear about the free agent safety who could be the final piece of Brian Flores' championship puzzle. A shocking release by the New England Patriots has created an unexpected opportunity that could solve one of the Minnesota Vikings' most pressing long-term questions. And the player in question is Jabril Peppers, a former first-round safety who could be the perfect heir apparent to the legendary Harrison Smith. The Patriots' decision to cut Peppers despite signing him to a 3-year extension worth up to $25 million after several outstanding seasons in New England has sent ripples through the NFL and created a golden opportunity for Brian Flores to add another versatile weapon to his already dominant defensive arsenal. Peppers wasn't just some average safety getting released. He was graded as one of Pro Football Focus's best players at the position. A 30-year-old veteran with elite athleticism and the exact skill set that thrives in Flores' complex, multiple-look defensive schemes. Here's why this move makes perfect sense for Minnesota, even if it seems counterintuitive to add a 30-year-old player as Harrison Smith's replacement. First, the financial situation could work out beautifully for the Vikings, similar to how they handled Daniel Jones last season when the Giants released him. Peppers was due $4.5 million from the Patriots, but with offset language in his contract, New England will likely cover most of that salary, allowing Minnesota to sign him for close to the veteran minimum while the Patriots eat the majority of his guaranteed money. This is the same strategy that allowed the Vikings to get tremendous value from Jones, paying him just $127,000 while New York covered the rest of his deal. The athletic profile is what makes Peppers so intriguing for Flores' system. This is a safety who can crash downhill against the run, cover receivers in space, provide effective blitz packages, and handle the complex coverage rotations that make Minnesota's defense so difficult to attack. His ability to play multiple positions would fit perfectly with how Flores uses Josh Metellus and Harrison Smith in different packages, potentially allowing Minnesota to run more of those devastating big dime looks with 3 safeties on the field simultaneously. At 30 years old, Peppers is exactly the right age for the safety position, where athleticism and football intelligence matter more than raw speed. Unlike other positions where 30 represents the beginning of decline, elite safeties regularly play at a high level well into their 30s because the position rewards experience, anticipation, and understanding of offensive concepts. Harrison Smith himself is a perfect example of how a smart, athletic safety can maintain elite production even as he approaches the end of his career. The timing couldn't be more perfect for Minnesota's long-term planning. Everyone knows Harrison Smith can't play forever, even though he continues to return for one more season, year after year. Rather than waiting until Smith retires and scrambling to find a replacement, signing Peppers now would allow the Vikings to develop that transition gradually, letting Peppers learn the system and build chemistry with the existing defense while Smith is still on the roster to provide guidance and leadership. Adding Peppers would also address one of the team's biggest needs without requiring them to use precious draft capital on the cornerback position. If Minnesota has a reliable 3-safety rotation with Smith, Metellus, and Peppers, they can focus their future draft picks and free agent resources on finding the shutdown corner they need to complete Flores' defensive vision. The versatility factor cannot be overstated when discussing what Peppers would bring to this defense. Flores has already shown his ability to maximize players like Metellus by moving him all over the formation, creating mismatches and confusion for opposing offenses. Peppers has similar versatility and would give Flores even more options to disguise coverages, bring unexpected pressure, and create those coverage traps that led to 24 interceptions last season. Even if this signing doesn't work out perfectly, the risk is minimal for Minnesota. If Peppers struggles to adapt to the system or doesn't mesh well with the existing players, the Vikings could simply move on without any significant financial commitment. But if he thrives in Flores' system and develops into Smith's long-term replacement, Minnesota would have solved a major succession question while adding another elite player to an already dominant defense. Do you see how Pepper's skill set would complement what Metellus and Smith already bring to this secondary? Can you imagine the nightmares opposing coordinators would have trying to figure out which safety is coming on blitz and which ones are dropping into coverage? This could be the kind of under-the-radar signing that puts Minnesota's defense over the top and transforms them from very good to historically great. If you believe Brian Flores can turn Peppers into the perfect replacement for Harrison Smith, show your faith in this defense by hitting that subscribe button and joining the thousands of Vikings fans who know this team is building something special. The avalanche of earth-shaking news we've just witnessed tells the story of a Minnesota Vikings organization that's not just trying to compete. They're building a championship machine that could terrorize the entire NFL for years to come. Brian Flores has created a defensive monster that's adding elite talent like Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave while reaching Masters level in the most complex scheme in football. Jordan Mason could completely flip the running game on his head, giving Minnesota a younger, more explosive rushing attack that complements Aaron Jones perfectly or potentially replaces him entirely. The jersey number changes reveal a roster brimming with confidence. From undrafted rookies earning premium digits to veterans reclaiming numbers from their most successful seasons. Anthony Barr's emotional retirement reminds us that Minnesota remains the kind of place where Warriors want to finish their careers and go home forever. And Jabril Peppers represents the kind of opportunity that championship organizations capitalize on. A proven veteran who could be the missing piece in Brian Flores' defensive puzzle. If you're feeling the electricity building around this team, if you can sense that something special is brewing in the Twin Cities, you need to smash that like button harder than a Jordan Mason power run through the A-gap. Drop a comment telling us which of these 5 stories shocked you the most, and subscribe to this channel, because if you're not following every single development with this Vikings team, you're missing the construction of something that could be absolutely legendary. And if this week felt like an earthquake, what's coming next could be the aftershock that topples the entire NFC North and sends Minnesota straight to the Super Bowl, because this war is only beginning.